Welcome to the Causes or Cures podcast, your gateway to understanding health and groundbreaking medical research in a fun and easy to understand way. With Dr. Eeks as your host, join us as we sit down with the world's leading doctors and scientists to unravel the mysteries of health. From practical tips on well-being to the latest breakthroughs in medical research, we cover it all. Don't forget to subscribe. Now, let's ignite our curiosity and together dive into today's episode.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining me on this episode of Causes or Cures. I'm Dr. Eeks, your host, and I hope you're all doing great out there. So this is an interesting one today. It's not my usual scientific research type of podcast, but it's still related to health. It'll be very interesting to you, particularly if you grew up Catholic, like me. You might find it extra intriguing. My guest today is Monsignor Stephen Rossetti, who is an exorcist, meaning he does exorcisms. Yes, not your typical day job, but there we are. In fact, he has conducted hundreds of exorcisms. Can you imagine? Hundreds. And as you'll hear in the podcast, he's busy. The phone is ringing off the hook. I should also add that he is not just a Monsignor. He also has a PhD in psychology and is a licensed psychologist. Anyhow, I finished reading his book, A Diary of an American Exorcist, which I found so interesting and different. So I reached out to him to come on the podcast, and he graciously agreed. So we'll get right to it. But here's the lowdown on what you'll hear today. He's going to describe what it means to be possessed and how possessions manifest. He'll discuss how one discerns possession from an underlying mental or physiological issue. He'll talk about what happens during an exorcism, some of his scarier moments, how long exorcisms take. I assume some demons are tougher than others, and what he says to the doubters. And, that's okay if you are a doubter. I'm sure there's a lot of doubters out there. And it's okay if all of your knowledge about exorcisms comes from Hollywood and movies. This will be educational, including for myself. All right, so let's connect to the Monsignor and hear what he has to say. All right, so we are connecting today with Monsignor Stephen Rossetti, who I just finished reading his book titled Diary of an American Exorcist, which I found really fascinating, and who I just found out a couple minutes ago is a graduate of the United States Air Force Academy, which is irony because I went to West Point. So such a small. Anyways,
I think we beat you in football this year, didn't we?
You did, yeah. It was yes.
Yeah, there we go.
That's enough. Don't ruin the podcast before it starts. Yeah, there's a serious rivalry there. Anyways, Monsignor, thank you so much for joining in. And so you have to tell me this. How did you go from becoming a priest, or how did you decide you wanted to be a priest, and then to becoming an exorcist?
Right. Well, it sounds kind of trite, but people say, how'd you become a priest? I think God called me. Even at the academy, for example, I was going to daily mass and really liked that. And I got close to the end of my time in the Air Force, and I was praying, and I asked the Lord, what he wanted of me, I figured I wasn't sure what I should do. I figured God's a lot smarter than I am. So I said, well, ask God what to do. And of course, that's all, as they say, the rest is history. How I became an exorcist, that was after 30 years plus of being a priest. As you may know, I'm a licensed psychologist. And so the Archdiocese had a case, and they weren't sure what to do with it. They wanted me to evaluate as a psychologist. One of the first things you do, you send the person to a clinician. So I evaluated the person. I said, it doesn't look like a psychological problem. I think you need to call an exorcist. Well, at that time, that was 13 years ago, whatever, they didn't have one. So they asked 3 different priests to do the exorcism, and they all said no. And so I'm sitting there with the auxiliary bishop and say, well, what do we do now? And I said, well, give it to me. I said, how hard can it be? So, so that's how it started. And little did I know. So, 13 years later, I'm pretty up to my neck in doing these things.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering that because I think a lot of people would be scared to do that. And I was like, maybe he lost a bet or something. So
well, it's not for everybody. I think it's especially good for older priests too. Satan can manipulate people pretty facilely, pretty easily, So being an older guy helps, I think, and being a little more crusty, So.
All right. So what is a demonic possession? And can you talk a little bit about the ways it can manifest?
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, we believe, Christians in general believe that Satan tempts everyone. So everyone's affected by what we call Satan's ordinary ministry or ordinary work, if a better word probably, is that he tempts everyone. But there are some situations where he has more influence and control, usually because people have invited him in some conscious or unconscious way. So do a lot of, for example, there are some people who have tattoos of demons on their shoulders. We've seen several of those recently. There are people belonging to satanic cults. People do all sorts of occult behaviors, practice witchcraft, all that kind of stuff. It's an opening to Satan, and if he's got an opening, he'll take it, and so he'll have more influence over the person because he's basically been invited in. And if the influence is strong enough, what happens is he can take possession of their bodies at times. So when you pray over the person, what comes forward is a demonic personality. The other personality recedes in the background, and you end up facing a demonic personality. Now, for example, that movie in the 70s, that scary movie, The Exorcist. I don't know if you saw it, but
let me just tell you something really quick. The William Blatty, the person who wrote his daughter went to West Point. She was in company.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she was. Yeah. So
I met her mother recently, Mrs. Blatty. Yeah, I was in a conference with. She's a wonderful lady.
Yeah.
She's a West Point grad. Good for her. She didn't want to go to the Air Force Academy, huh?
No, she was smart.
Smart. There you go. So it's actually based on a real case. The case was actually a young lad, about 12, 13 years old, who got possessed by playing with Ouija boards for months. And when you do that, it's an opening to the demonic. And so he was possessed, and the Jesuits did this exorcism in St. Louis, and the young lad was freed. And actually, I understand the guy the young lad was lived a good life and was fine. He worked for the government, I understand, and recently passed away.
So did you know him, or did you meet?
No, but he's in the area. He was in the D.C. area. They kept his identity secret, of course, for obvious reasons, to protect his confidentiality. But I just happened to see that he lived a full and happy life. And the priest who actually did the exorcism, he lived a happy he died an old guy. I mean, that notion that somehow he was killed, he lived a satisfying old life and died an old priest.
Well, I think because that's a lot of the only thing people really know about exorcism is what we see through Hollywood. Right. That's so.
Yeah, well, there's some of those things are true, but of course, some of the things in the movie where the head spins around 360s and projectile vomits this green stuff. No, it doesn't happen. But it can get dicey. I mean, it can get real exorcism can be somewhat challenging.
Okay, so in your book, you, as I read it, I kept asking myself, well, how do you definitively rule out whether this is a biological or a mental issue? And, the fact that you mentioned already that you're a psychologist, and that intrigued me because you obviously have that training too, in terms of deciphering. So what do you do? How do you say, okay, for sure, this is a possession. We have to do an exorcism now.
It is complicated, but in the end, what you're really looking for is a very clear sign of something that's not natural, a preternatural, a demonic presence. Typically, we'll start with the psychological. We'll send the person to psychologists and psychiatrists. They will be medicated. They'll go through all that stuff. And if someone really has a demonic presence, it doesn't help. The psychological stuff doesn't do anything. And then there are some signs that there's something more involved. For example, there'll be the hatred of the sacred. I mean, when someone's possessed, you hold up a crucifix in front of them or hit them with holy water, and you'll get a very violent reaction. Any sacred thing, or they have a very difficult time going to mass, going to confession, going to communion. Very difficult for a really possessed person. And then when you pray over them, this presence comes forward, which a human being can't fake. It's not just an angry thing. It's this look and pure evil. It is kind of striking and unnerving, actually. The hatred is unbelievable, really, when you see it. That's probably the most unnerving thing about an exorcism, to see face to face with something that's purely evil. And oftentimes, for example, there'll be occult knowledge. They'll know things that the person will know things there's no way they could know. For example, sometimes the demons go around the room and say, you did this, you did that, and you did, and they'll go around the room, they'll say all these things about people, and there's no way the person could have known it. So we call that occult knowledge, and that's a very strong sign of the demonic. And then when you start praying over the person, eventually, if it's really spiritual, the person gets better, and it's kind of it's a wonderful ministry in that regard to have people get their lives back because they're tortured and tormented, and when maybe just a few prayer sessions returns them to a more normal life, I tell you, they're thrilled, and they're in the front pews of the church because they realize the truth of what these things are. Yeah.
One thing that stood out in your book, these are, I think for a layperson like me, they're scary. You read them and you're like, oh my gosh, I would have sprinted out of the room if I saw that or ran to a church. But you seem to be very calm. And even when the possessed people got violent, but are there moments that stand out in your work that are the scariest for you? Well,
I would say that, yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of things. One is that there's two huge mistakes people make today. One is saying there's no such thing as Satan and a personified evil. And that's just simply not the Christian faith. I mean, just about every religion has some awareness of this reality. And Jesus cast out demons. It's been part of our tradition and faith. So it's what we call de fide. It's part of the faith. So denying the existence of a personified evil is one extreme and a mistake. The other extreme is to somehow think that Satan and God are equal. Satan would like to think he's equal to God, but is not. And Satan's a created being. He's a chained beast. And Jesus smashed Satan's kingdom. And so basically, and you say, well, how do you know that? Well, just hold up a crucifix, throw a little holy water on them, just do anything that's remotely connected to Christ or anything holy, and the demons start screaming. They can't stand it. That's how you throw them out. You do holy things. So you begin to realize they're compared to Jesus, they're dust, and so don't be too frightened about Satan. As long as you're living the faith and trusting in the Lord, you're protected.
But has there ever been a moment or something you saw where you thought you could get hurt? I feel like.
Well, these things have happened. I mean, basically, although what's interesting is they'll often lunge at me. The person in the midst of the session, they'll lunge at me, and their hands are out, and they want to choke me and kick me and smash me, and it's like they hit a wall, bang, and about 8 inches from my face. And I just sit there and look at him, and obviously the Lord protects me. He has to, because if he didn't, every exorcist in this country would be dead, because the demons would want to kill us for sure. So then there are only about 120 of us, so the Lord has to protect the few that he has. No, I feel protected, but I do have to be careful. I mean, I've been slugged, I've been kicked, I've been thrown upon, I've been bashed, I'd be a little careful. So yeah, it's
but not only that, I feel like the person could hurt themselves too. You talk about how sometimes they levitate, or
Well, here's what this is. Yeah, no, that's my number one concern in any of these things is safety. And by the way, one of my jobs when I was at the Air Force Academy was I was a safety officer. And so I've always been very safety conscious. I was a safety officer. I'm very safety conscious. So the first thing we do is with people to keep them safe in the sessions and out. Many of them can become suicidal, by the way. So I'm very concerned about that. And we call 911, take them to the hospital, all those kinds of things, keep them safe. And another thing, by the way, is that the possessed will often do is stop eating. Now, this has happened several times, and if it's life-threatening thing, so they have to go to the hospital and have IV nourishment. They'll just stop eating. So I'm very clear with them. You stop eating, we stop the session. So keeping them safe is and one of my first concerns.
Another thing I learned from your book, I was always under the impression that it was mostly just religious people who would go to do an exorcism, but you talk about lay people, I believe, who are called spiritual sensitives, and they come with you, or they're gifted people who can sense the presence of demons. How does that happen? How do you even get linked up with people like that?
Well, we're very careful. There's lots of people who think they're spiritual sensitive, and it's just in their head. They're just kind of little mentally misled. There are some people who think they're spiritual sensitive, and actually it's the demonic which is doing this. But there are a few people who really have real gifts. And when you look at the history of the church and the Christianity, you'll see many famous people like St. Catherine of Siena, St. Mary of Jesus Crucified, St. Gemma, lots of famous saints who saw angels, saw demons, and had a real gift. And so it's a long history of the church that there are these specially gifted people. And the Lord gives us some, thank God, to help us with our ministry. So this is a team effort. It's not just Monsignor Rossetti versus we have a whole team there, and we typically have a few women in the room, and some of them will be spiritually sensitive people, and they'll help us understand, is there a demonic presence, and what kind of demonic presence might there be, and how can we get rid of it?
How do you find those people though? Like it just
they find us, we find them. We gravitate in the same circles.
Okay.
No, they come to us.
Yeah, I was reading the one said she saw a demon sitting on food or something like that.
Oh yeah, well, she was she's probably the most gifted
Really?
one I've ever seen. No, she really is quite remarkable, and a holy young woman. She's and she's very gifted, and there are different levels and different types of sensitive folks. She's probably one of the best, All
right. My next question, you touched on it a little bit, was hold on, I lost my place here in my notes. Oh, here we go. In your entry 32, you talk about the look. And you write that one of the common signs we use to diagnose a demonic presence is the look. So can you describe that? And how do you differentiate it from someone who's just, I don't know, super ferocious, angry, hates someone?
Yeah, no, it's as I mentioned a little bit earlier, there is a difference between someone who's a really angry person and versus the look of pure hatred and evil. I've never seen a human being can't mimic that. I don't care how good of an actor you are. And the way actually sometimes we have people who kind of fake being possessed. They fake being possessed, and I don't know why, but we say no, I don't think so. But when the real demonic presence comes forward, that look is unmistakable and quite unnerving. Just that pure hatred and evil. Sometimes I feel bad for sometimes young people these days, sadly, are joining satanic cults and all sorts of witchcraft, all those kinds of things. And one woman sent a note saying, she said, God doesn't love you, said, but Satan loves you. Then she said, ... kind of. So I want you to know that Satan doesn't love you. Satan is a narcissist. Satan is evil and purely hatred, full of hatred. That's who Satan is. Hatred personified. And when you see that, it's quite stunning.
I guess it's something you have to experience to
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, I can't do a describe. But yeah, but when you've seen it, you
know
get it.
Okay. In entry 30, you write that demons love tech, and you get text messages from demons, which honestly made me raise an eyebrow because I had so many follow-up questions to that.
I know that lots of people don't believe it, and which is fine. I don't care if they believe it or not.
I know, but I just said to myself, what kind of text message? How do you know it's a demon?
Well, when the return phone number is 000666000, and it's usually it's always related to a specific case. So it's only happened in two different, maybe three different cases that we've had where they're very intense cases of possession. It's a real all battle, and they'll be sending these snarky messages to you, Give it up, Rossetti. Of course, they don't call me Monsignor Father. They say, give it up, Rossetti, and that sort of thing. And you just, I mean, you know the voice, the demons are surprisingly boring, I think, and unbelievably, I mean, their voice is very typical. I mean, you keep hearing again and again and again, give it up, you have no authority over us, and it's a snarky thing based on the case we're dealing with. And I send them back, all I do is send back a prayer. Every time they send me some snarky thing, I send them back a prayer, so I keep sending back prayers, and they'll go, no, stop, that sort of thing. So, but we shouldn't be too surprised, that, for example, a common thing in houses that are infested with demons, the lights will turn off and on, the television turn off and on, the electronics start all screwed up, whatever it is. So the demons are playing with electronics in houses. Well, guess what? They got a new toy. Now they have cell phones. Before they didn't. They just messed with electronics in the house. Now they got a new thing to mess with, to try to mess you up. And they'll block our calls and stuff. For example, when a possessed person's trying to get a hold of me, sometimes they can't get through. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with their phone or my phone. It's just they're blocking it. So we'll say a prayer over the phone. We got a whole prayer in our app. By the way, we've got an app. And there's a prayer for technology. Before we do a major deliverance sessions online or whatever, we're going to say that prayer for technology so the demons don't mess with it. And I should mention that our app is Catholic Exorcism, not too surprising. Catholic Exorcism. There's an app, or we have a website, www.catholicexorcism.org, and you can get all those prayers there.
Okay. Hold on. My dog is walking across the floor right now.
Okay.
He's just taking a seat over there.
He's interested.
Yeah, he is. Well, so I just wanted to, I've always heard too, that not demons, but spirits can do the same thing with technology. Interestingly, my dad was a veterinarian. Some of his clients would talk about how spirits would affect the animal's behavior. So, but there are spirits too, I think, right? And
well, we would call angels and demons they're spirits. I mean, they're spirits. Yeah. So they're good angels,
there's good, right.
Good things. Yeah.
Okay.
And there's bad ones. And so, yeah, I'm sure that's what they are. They're pure. They're like us, only they're just completely spiritual. They're not incarnate in bodies.
So it doesn't have to be a demon who messes with your technology. It could be a good spirit.
Well, usually, I mean, the Lord does communicate an angel. The word means messenger. So angels are God's messengers, so they communicate with us in a variety of different ways. I mean, I think all of us probably at some point felt that the Lord maybe touched us and gave us a little message or a little something in a variety of different ways. Could be through some other person, through an internal intuition, lots of different ways that people feel like God touches them and gives them a message. And it could be through your cell phone. Who knows? I mean, although I think God's usually just taps you on the shoulder more directly, but God can do what he wants.
So on my limited experience watching exorcisms based on Hollywood movies and stuff, I always thought that it was a short-term thing. You just go to somebody's house. I mean, and you were there a few hours and then it was done. But from your book, it seems like this could be a process and it takes a while.
Yeah, it's not this is not magic. I mean, witchcraft, for example, that's magic. We do special rituals, and we don't believe in magic. That's a bunch of garbage. Rather, it's a prayer. It's a prayer, and it's a process of purification, of making the person an unwelcome host for the demonic. How do they get to be possessed to begin with? Probably, I'll give you my three steps to getting possessed. I don't suggest you take them. One, stop practicing the faith. That takes away your shield. Ephesians 6, Christ is our shield. So the faith is your shield. So stop practicing the faith. Number two, start committing sinful behaviors. We all know what those are. That creates wounds in the psyche. And then start doing some occult stuff. Practice magic, do Ouija boards, tarot cards, all that kind of stuff. So when the person becomes possessed, then we have to reverse the process. We have to kind of scrub them clean spiritually. So we tell them, go to confession, go to mass, go receive the Eucharist, start praying, stop whatever this evil stuff you're doing. And it's a slow process of purification. So finally the demons are not welcome, essentially, in your life.
In entry 47, you talked about how you've treated many people with depression as a licensed psychologist. But then you mentioned that there are demons of depression. So maybe somebody's depression is actually possession?
Usually what would use the word oppression.
Oppression, sorry.
A lesser form, obsession or oppression. But as a psychologist, most people come to me with symptoms of depression are depressed. So go to psychotherapy, take the medications. 80% of people are very treatable when they are depressed. But sometimes we had a case not long ago of an individual who had done all those things and was still depressed, and we couldn't figure out why. But there were some openings to the demonic in his life. So when he came to us, the spiritual sensitives all said, "Oh my gosh, he's got demons." People started coughing and hacking and just saying, "This is terrible." So we started praying over the guy, and I would say after about 6 weeks, it lifted. So he was unusual in the sense that he really did. His depression was more demonic than, and there's some real reasons why the demons had some opening in his life. So yeah, sometimes it can be. Normally it's psychological, but sometimes it can be demonic.
Okay. And entry 83, you write that curses are real. And you quoted Father Amorth, I say that right?
Yeah.
Said that 90% of possessed cases are the result of curses. Now, a lot of people don't believe in curses.
Sure they don't. And no, this is...
my best friend does. She's convinced. She actually is reading your book right now.
Oh, really? Okay.
So this question is really for her. She wanted me to ask you.
Okay, here's what I'd say. That 90% of possession cases, that's Italy. They're all cursing everybody in Italy. The Americans don't do as much of that. Recently, they're doing more of it. And I would say, I know people don't believe in curses. And frankly, I didn't really think much about it way back when either. I'm going to give you an experience, which is mine. I was riding on a train in Rome. And this guy comes up to me, and usually for street people, I give them a little food, If I don't give them money, I give them food. So he came up to me on the train and asked me for some money, and I held out some cookies. And I said, here's some cookies. And he looked. He was enraged. He was so angry, enraged. He just stared at me uncomfortably for like this long time. I'm going, what's this? And then he walks away. And the instant he walks away, I just felt pummeled in my head spiritually by this, some force. I don't know what it was. It felt like I was being smacked in the head constantly. I go, wow, what is that? And then I had an intuition, an inspiration. I said, oh, you've been cursed. So I, of course, being a priest, I slapped both hands on my head and I prayed a short exorcism prayer, and bang, it stopped. I said, okay, guy cursed me, and we threw out the demonic presence. So here's the thing about the whole witchcraft thing and curses and all that kind of stuff. I know people don't believe in it, but as Father Gabriel Morth would say, witches receive their power through the demonic. They might not realize it. They might say, "Oh no, I'm a good witch," or I'm in touch with the forces of nature or some ancient." It's garbage. When the power that a witch has and curses and stuff like that is through Satan, whether they know it or not. And so, yeah, there's a real spiritual force. You invoke Satan's power, he might exactly do something, and so they are real, which is. And the Bible is very clear about that. Don't curse anyone. Bless and do not curse. Jesus on the cross forgave. Father, forgive them. So we don't curse people. Words have power and meaning. Americans don't realize that. For example, if I said something ugly, God forbid, to you right now, and then say, "Oh no, I'm sorry, Aaron, please forgive me." Well, you might, but you're going to be still hurt. Those words had some power to them. So let's not underestimate the power of the word, especially Satan, and let's not curse anyone, but let's ask God's blessing on all people.
Well, I think that's good. I can't imagine going around cursing people being good for anybody.
A lot of people do it.
Yeah. Well, I think too, a lot of people are unhappy, and you see more of that, especially in our country. There's just. And there is lots of things seem to be replacing God. That's my theory. Just, even the cancel culture, the lack of forgiveness, all of that. But I don't know.
I certainly agree with that. Yeah, I think the part of being a Christian is to say, I'm a sinner. Mm-hmm. The cancel culture to me says, no, you're a sinner and I'm good. No, I'm a sinner. And oftentimes in exorcisms, the demons will look at me and say, Rossetti, you're a sinner, you're weak, you're powerless. I said, it's true. I am a sinner, and I really have no authority of my own. But guess what? I'm not your problem. Jesus is your problem. And in Jesus' name, I command you to leave.
So are you still actively performing exorcisms? Do you get a lot of calls? I think I read a newspaper.
Did one yesterday. We got a list of 13 people. We're trying to deal. We get calls constantly. We're overwhelmed. We're overwhelmed.
You're overwhelmed.
Not all of them are really possessed. Most of them who do have a demonic issue are lesser forms, what we call obsession or oppression. So the lesser forms. But yeah, I think, but some of them are just have psychological problems. But nonetheless, it's a flood, I would say, and we're doing our best to keep up.
Do you get calls all over the country or just?
Well, unfortunately, I do. And we only take people in our own diocese. Of course, everyone should go to their own priest in their own diocese. Don't come to us. But what we started, talk about technology. Once a month, we have an online live deliverance prayer session. And we just started it in December. And we have about 3,000 people sign up every month. So it's quite remarkable. And we have our next ones on a couple of weeks from now. And we do actually pray over people. People from all over the world log in. If they go to our website, you can find the link and register. And people from all over the world, Hong Kong, Singapore, UK, the Philippines, everywhere, all over the world, people are signing up, and it's stunning. The graces the Lord is God is generous, and remarkable some of the healings that are taking place.
That's interesting. I like how it's people from all over. That's nice.
All over the world, it's amazing. We get notes from people all over the world, daily.
Nice. So there's going to be some people who listen to this podcast who are going to be like, "No way, absolutely not." I'm sure you've heard this. So what do you say to doubters, people who say
nothing? I mean, I have lots of priests who are doubters. It was fine. I mean, you do it your own. I'm not, that's between you and the Lord. But there's a nice line in a movie. City of Angels. You see the City of Angels with Meg Ryan and Nicolas Cage? I love the movie. And of course, Nicolas Cage plays an angel and she plays a doctor. You like that. And at one point, he starts talking to her. The angel talks to her, the doctor, about the spiritual realities. And she says, I don't believe in those things. And Nicolas Cage, the angel, goes, well, some things are true, whether you believe them or not.
Fair. That's true. Yeah. You don't say anything to them.
No, it is
what it is.
Yeah, I mean, read the Bible. It's funny, interesting. Father Amorth, a famous exorcist who's gone to the Lord now, as you mentioned, from Rome, he was talking to a Vatican cardinal years ago. And the Vatican cardinal says, I don't believe in all that Satan stuff and that demon stuff. And Father Amorth says, Your Eminence, I have a book I want you to read. He says, well, what book is that? He said, it's the Bible.
Oh,
yeah.
Did he get in trouble?
No, when are you going to do to an old exorcist? That's like me. Hey, I'm 71 this year. I'm an old exorcist. What are they going to do to me? I mean, so at this point.
So this is my last question for you. So do you ever get stressed out by these things, or do you talk to other? You mentioned there's only about 120 of you in the country. Do you talk to other exorcists? What do you do to cope, or is it really just your faith that just gets you through all of this?
A couple of things I'd say. First of all, it is a draining ministry because the demands are high. Of course, ministry can be that way anyway. Anyone who runs a parish knows that. But when you're doing exorcism, the demons drain the energy out of you. It really is very draining. So we have to be careful about that. We can only do so many in a day. But I would say we're a very upbeat crowd. We're lots of fun. We tell lots of jokes, and we're just a fun, upbeat crowd. I would say this ministry confirms our faith. All those things you learned in catechism, all those things that were taught to you, we experience them. We experience the truths of the faith. So it's very affirming and encouraging to the faith. We experience the reality of God in Jesus. We experience the saints and the relics and the holy oils, the waters, and all that kind of stuff. We experience the power of the church and the power of the priesthood. So it's very affirming, and the Lord gives us a certain spirit of joy, which is a sign of the kingdom.
Well, thank you so much, Monsignor. That was really interesting. That was my last question. Other than that, I just have to probably say beat Air Force because.
Well, maybe you'll get a chance next year, but who knows?
I know, that's true. That's true. Yeah, the Navy game was bad too this year, but
we lost it. I think we lost the Navy this year. I think we.
But this was really interesting. Thank you, and I'll
be glad to give people a short blessing if you don't mind.
Absolutely, for sure.
Let's ask God to bless each and every person, all your loved ones who are listening to this podcast, especially you, Aaron, and your family. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord look upon you with kindness and give you his peace. And may Almighty God bless you all, Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I was going to ask you to do that, but then I'm like, I won't ask. But you did it anyway, so thanks.
I'm glad to.
Enjoy the rest of your day. It was a pleasure to connect. And I look forward to sharing this.
My pleasure.
Okay. And I may email you and ask if you want to send a link to your app, I can include it. And then also just a picture that I can include on the cover art. That would be. Yeah,
I'll try to get you a picture. Yeah. Matter of fact, I've got one. I will send it to you. And but thanks for the link, and we'll include it in our.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
22,000 people are subscribers.
Wow, that's amazing.
It's rocketing up too. Yeah, it's 20.
Yeah, I mean that's amazing today. I used to work in digital health and apps. It's so hard to get people to sign on. So that's really good. That's impressive.
Yeah. Well, what can I say?
Yeah, that's great. Well, I'll check it out. I'll download it too, and see what it's all about. And
great.
All right, thank you.
I'll send you the picture soon. Good.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Ciao, ciao.
Bye. Well, that was an interesting one, right? I bet you didn't think you were going to hear that on Causes or Cures, but it's all related to health. And this is a health podcast. So exorcisms, that's what we talked about today with an exorcist. And I want to thank the Monsignor for coming on. Just a reminder, guys, I will link to his app and also his book in the podcast description or on my blog at bloomingwellness.com so you guys can check it out. And let me know what you thought. You can reach me through my website or on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I'm also, I don't know. Those are my main social media sites. I can't handle anymore. Everyone always was like, download this, download that. I'm like, I can't. I'm done. I need to cut back. All right, guys. I hope you have a good day and hope you're here next time for the next episode of Causes or Cures. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.